Hello again, lovelies. I hope you've been staying well and keeping up with your studies. In case you hadn't noticed, I took a little breather the last month or so, but I'm back and goatier than ever. And I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who's helped me reach where I am in as little time as it's taken. You're all wonderful, and I love each and every one of you, in varying degrees of appropriateness. And now we're cooking up videos on the regular and finding our hooves on short and long content around here, and we've even started collaborating with other creators, some of whom I know you already love. But while that's all simmering away, cause the longer the cook, the better the taste, here's another compilation of my recent short stories for the swipe-free experience so many of you love. Not gonna lie, these compilations are great for the channel, and they're great for listeners that just want to turn away from the screen and listen to some bite-sized bitching from a British goat with way too much time on his hands. So sit back, grab those fidget dice, and enjoy. Stay magical, lovelies! Well, my character doesn't fear death, so I'm not scared. So this happened a couple years ago in a 5th edition game I played with some friends. We had a big party, like 8 players if I remember right. The only 2 that really matter for this story are the rogue, chaotic neutral human, and my character, lawful evil tiefling warlock. Now, even though I was playing an evil character, I had one golden rule: don't mess with your allies. They're useful, they're helping me, and I don't need to create enemies inside the party. So all my evil was directed at NPCs and enemies, never at the group. Being lawful evil, I leaned into the devil vibe, dealmaker, manipulator, all that fun stuff. I always shared treasure with the group and they did the same. We split things pretty evenly, except for the rogue. Whenever we explored new areas, she'd sneak off, split from the party, and pocket whatever she found without telling anyone. This also meant sometimes we'd get into combat and she wouldn't even be around to help. My character started getting annoyed. Not just that she skipped fights, but also that she still got an equal share of the treasure, even though she wasn't pulling her weight. So I started wondering, where exactly is she going when she sneaks off? I had a solution: my Pact of the Chain Imp. I sent him invisible to follow her, and sure enough, he caught her stashing loot. Naturally, I confronted her. That turned into a pretty heated in-character argument. My warlock demanded that she either share everything she'd taken up until now and promise to do so in the future, or she wouldn't get any cut from the party's treasure moving forward. She refused. At that point, my character had had enough. I told the DM I wanted to intimidate her. Rolled for it, don't remember the exact mechanics, probably my intimidation versus one of her saves, and I succeeded. My tiefling flared up in a cloak of hellfire and shouted, "You will do as I say or I will reduce you to ashes!" Her response? Well, my character doesn't fear death, so I'm not scared. Oh boy. That really triggered me. Now, normally I'm not a rules lawyer, but I couldn't resist and just said, "Does your character sheet say you're immune to fear? No? Then you're scared of me." This story had a good ending as it actually worked out in the end. The DM backed me up, she started playing more like a team member, and eventually our characters ended up becoming good friends. Ah, damn, this is a dicey one. On the one hand, the DM and the dice are God, so Rogue shouldn't have outright defied the roll. It's called a saving throw for a reason, and she failed. On the other hand, I've known real people who are stupid enough not to be afraid when they really ought to be afraid, so I don't put it past a character at all. And ultimately, it's Rogue's game too, and you can't dictate their feelings by pointing to their character sheet. It's also hilarious that their neutral Rogue is acting more evil than your evil Warlock. I guess evil comes in many forms, including obstinate, selfish, and annoying as hell. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. DM forgets he's the DM. I don't know if this is interesting, but it's just so weird I had to say something. After DMing for a group of friends for a while, one of those friends offered to run a short campaign. I mostly DM, but I usually prefer playing, so I was very happy to let him run the game. Well, after almost a year of things going wrong, we finally got to a point where everyone was prepared and available. Even though I wasn't DMing, we still decided to do it at my place since I still had everything set up. One by one, people arrived. The DM had some last-minute family stuff happen, so he was going to be about half an hour late. So we all excitedly talked amongst ourselves about our plans and our characters and how great it was to get the gang back together. Then the DM shows up. The only thing he has with him is his phone, and he sits in a player seat. So we're all giving each other confused and curious looks. I suggest that he could take the seat I usually use so he has more space and nobody was looking over his shoulder, and then he started to get the same confused look that the rest of us had. There was an awkward silence that seemed to last forever before another player snapped and bluntly said what we were all thinking. The DM just sort of said, "Oh, I forgot about that. It's been so long since we first talked about this, I'm not even sure where my notes are." He then asked if he could just be a player for this session, as if I could just improvise a session on zero notice. I think I just let out a long sigh. One friend immediately said she was done with this shit and called an Uber home. The rest of us just turned it into a movie night. This happened a couple of months ago, and we haven't even talked about D&D since then, which is probably for the best. I have other games with other groups, so I'm not too bothered that this didn't go forward, but it was such a bizarre mess. And for the record, I had spoken to the DM the weekend before all this to confirm that my character concept was still okay, so I'm not sure how he managed to forget in the week since then. Oh my god, show me a DM that absolutely does not want to DM. Contrast this guy with the OP who prefers to play by their own admission but actually does DM when they've committed to it. This guy had a year to just say, actually I don't think I want to do this, but he said nothing, let everyone gather, got them all excited, seemingly was reminded beforehand, and still just biffed everything. Hell, maybe he was even stalling for part of that year, so he wouldn't even have to DM and could still pull the "oh, it was so long ago" card. I mean, why did he even offer to DM if he was just gonna drop the ball this hard? I would have been out of there with the player that called an Uber, because what the fuck? At best, this guy wins Himbo of the Year, but no matter which way you cut it, this was really disrespectful to everyone else's time. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. My DM can't stop using AI. My DM is using AI for everything. He's world building with AI, writing quests, storylines, cities, NPCs, character art, everything. He's voice chatting with the AI and telling it his plans like it's a real person. The chat is even giving him feedback on how sessions went and how long we have to play to get to certain arcs, which the chat wrote, of course. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of speaking and feeding my real, original, creative thoughts as a player to an AI through the DM, who is basically serving as a human pipeline. As the only note-taker in the group, all of my notes, which are written live during the session, plus the recaps I write afterward, are fed to the AI. I tried explaining that every answer and idea that an LLM gives you is based on existing creative work from other authors and world builders, and that it is not cohesive, but my DM will not change. I do not know if it's out of laziness, but he cannot do anything without using AI. Worst of all, my DM is not ashamed of it. He proudly says that the chat is very excited for today's session and that they had a long conversation on the way. Of course, I brought it up. Everyone knows I dislike this kind of behavior, and I am not alone. Most, if not all, of the players in our party think it's weird and has gone too far. But what can I do? He's been my DM for the past 3 years, he has become a really close friend, but I can see this is scrambling his brain or something, and I cannot stand it. Edit. The AI chat is praising my DM for everything. Every single idea he has is great, every session went according to plan. It makes my DM feel like a mastermind for ideas he didn't even think of by himself. Ew, ew, ew! Yeah, no, fuck this game, fuck that guy, fuck his little ego-stroking sycophant machine, and fuck him again for feeding your table's ideas, your collective story, your voices into it as a cherry on top. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, the cartoon goat on the internet doesn't like AI. On top of having my work, likeness, and voice fed into AI too many times to count, at this point I can see zero reason for anyone to use it that's in any way ethical when you take into account the environmental costs, the theft that it's based on, and the fact that it's just a faulty, missold product. In fact, I get scared for the people that use it as a supplement or even a replacement for real social interaction with real humans. Lazy is one thing, but these machines addict you to the praise and rewire your brain in ways we're only just starting to figure out. So yeah, fuck AI, don't use it, especially don't feed your friends shit into it just because it pats you on the head and calls you a super special smarty boy. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I ditched a campaign today. This is very mild compared to most things here. I was playing a Fabula Ultima game and we had a major in-character disagreement over what to do with cornered enemies. I wanted to take them in, another party member just wanted to kill them. Things got pretty heated, but we stayed in character. But some of the reasoning for why we should kill them stuck with me over the following days and made me feel sick, as it veered into realms of dehumanization that hit me just wrong in today's political climate. I'll be blunt. The guy is someone I've had friction with in the past. Nothing major, but I found him to be overbearing and I just find his personality somewhat irksome. This is something that compounded that. So I messaged DM asking if we could have a tone check next session. DM was very nice and said yes. Next session we sit down and have the talk. DM says he's dialing the tone back and asks if anyone would like to say anything. I took the time to talk to the other player, pointing out the exact things he had done that had made me upset. He said nothing. He didn't even look at me. I was 2 feet away from him at the time. The game went on after that and I just felt sick, like I was going to vomit. About an hour into the session, I faked getting a text and went home. I felt a sheer dread driving into the game, dreading having to talk to the guy as I've not found him to be sympathetic towards my plights in the past. And as I learned, that wasn't a baseless feeling. Driving home, I felt relieved, like a weight was off my chest. I'm not going back to that campaign. I haven't decided how much I want to be honest about, but needless to say, I just don't want to play a game with that person anymore. I feel a little bad because the GM was doing his best to meet me halfway, and I'll be letting him know he's a great GM, but when I'm trying to open up to someone about how they've made me feel uncomfortable, and they can't say a word to me, can't even look at me, I don't want to share a table with them. Ugh. There's a phrase going around right now that I think sums up my feelings pretty well. When someone reveals who they really are, believe them. I'm not gonna read too much into what real-world politics are being referenced here, but I can make a few reasonable guesses, and if I'm right, it's definitely not what I'd want to engage with either. At best, this seems like a disagreement over escapism in the game that's being taken very personally, and OP is perfectly within their rights to raise the issue and open the discussion on what people want the game to be like. This story might be very one-sided, but if things unfolded the way that OP describes, and this guy's vibes were the way that we're led to believe, yeah, OP, trust your gut on this one. The DM's a real one for trying to make this work, but remember the golden rule. No game is better than bad game, and this was definitely turning into a bad game. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. You're just turned to stone, okay? This post contains at least one spoiler for the Pathfinder AP Rise of the Runelords. So a million years ago, around 2010 I think, I joined a Pathfinder 1st edition group that was playing through the anniversary edition of Rise of the Runelords. I was playing an elf monk and managed to roll decently for stats, so I was not useless. The rest of the party were rogue, fighter, and halfling ranger who rode on a wolf. This is important later. I should also say that this group is the same group of people that were playing in my previous Pathfinder group that fell apart halfway through the campaign. The first warning was that the GM was always complaining about how the book was written, because information that you need for such and such chapter on page 40, for example, was in the back of the book, so he kept having to flip back and forth. Oh, the horror! Anyway, we're in chapter 2, the Skinsaw Murders, and we're on top of a building, fighting a Lamia matriarch, who is a CR10. We were level 7, I think. We're doing decently with some spells, good rolls from us, and poor rolls from the GM. The third round of combat comes up, and the Lamia can use a Medusa mask, which has an ability once a day to turn a creature to stone if it fails a saving throw. It's only a DC 15, as I found out later, so not a big deal. The Lamia targets the ranger as determined by a random die roll. Except that the GM didn't allow the saving throw because he didn't know that it had one or what the DC was. The ranger asks, did it target me or my wolf? Which is a legitimate question. The GM huffily replies, "You'll just turn to stone, okay?" The table goes quiet. Ranger leaves the table, and we start to argue with the GM. Again, the information is in the back of the book, so it's obviously a problem. A few minutes later, Ranger returns and says that he quits and that we'll have to find somewhere else to play, since we're playing at his house. Again, completely legit. We kind of kept playing for another year, but the sessions mostly became hangouts rather than playing. The GM is still a friend, but honestly, I don't think I'd ever play in a game he ran again. You know, when I first read this story, I thought I was going to be ripping on the GM so hard, but I've recorded 6 takes of that and it just doesn't feel right. It feels like the whole table is at fault here. Clearly, GM is not cut out to be a GM if he can't really figure out that he has to flip between pages and find the items he's looking at, but the whole table is really not being that supportive when their GM is clearly struggling. And yeah, GM needs to learn some patience, but at the same time, whenever I DM being an idiot goat, I really look to my other players to make sure everyone's having a good time and to see kind of where I've messed up a bit. But someone really needs to remind the GM not to piss off the guy whose house you're playing in. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Did I push things too far? Never thought I'd have to write this, but it seems I may have gone too hard as a DM. My party did the cliche thing and adopted a kobold. He's been with the party a good 10 sessions now, and I thought it would be fun to give him a little progression, some character development, and had a leader from his previous troop track him down. At this point, the kobold was trusted to do watches, so I decided to take advantage of this and have the encounter happen on one of these nights. Now, the ranger has a very high passive perception, and I allowed him to make a roll to see if he heard Snotgut sneak away. He passed the DC and was there to see the whole interaction. The original leader threatened the kobold with death before feigning mercy and saying all would be forgiven if he would betray the party. The kobold hung his head in fear and agreed. As you all probably know, very typical of a kobold, especially one all by itself. Well, to attempt to make a long story a little shorter, if the ranger did not get involved because honestly the former leader would have been too much to take on by himself, but when the aforementioned battle eventually commenced, I have the kobold step up between the party and his former masters, and reach into his pocket. The general called out, "Hurry up already, end this!" The general had given the kobold a corrupted fireball spell. It was cursed to turn the caster into a living bomb. What the general didn't know was that due to the friendship the kobold had with the wizard, they role-played a lot of the wizard teaching him how to read arcana. He knew exactly what he had. Before he could make his move, however, the ranger unleashed 2 attacks, killing him, and the battle went on. The rogue asked to check the body of the kobold, finding on him not only the scroll, but a goodbye note encased in a fireproof vial. The kobold intended to take himself out all along with the enemy party. The wizard is incredibly angry with me as well as the ranger. Did I go too far? Should I retcon this? Yes, do it. Save him now! In all seriousness, I get wanting to do good character development, but why would you kill off the party's pet kobold? There's giving your players some satisfying drama and throwing them a curveball, but then there's just being mean to no foreseeable benefit. I may be biased, but I can't see any way in which this would have been done where all the players would have been happy to see their long-term companion die, which sounds like was the whole point. Whether the ranger killed him or he went through with his planned self-sacrifice, he'd be dead. That's not character development, that's character destruction, literally. I don't know if you should retcon this specifically, or maybe you can find a creative solution to bring the kobold back and satisfy this arc that you've come up with. But I can definitely understand why your players would be mad at you. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Every single NPC is needlessly hot? Been at this table for a couple of months, and I swear every day there is a new NPC that is just outrageously sexy. No matter who, what, or where, if there is an NPC, they will be hot. It can't just be a librarian, it's always a hot, single, charismatic, Delphi dragon librarian. It can't just be a bard. It's a sultry tiefling baddie with limited clothing. Literally no one can be ugly or normal, they all have to be hot and ready. These voracious NPCs constantly flirt with the player characters, to the point where one of them is now dating an NPC who doesn't even travel with the party. That NPC took the player character on this absolutely insane and expensive date in an airship, riding off into the sunset together, the whole shebang. The weirdest part is everyone else at the table seems to be totally into it. They always beg to see pictures of the characters we meet so that they can thirst over them and try and get with them. It's like a game of who can woo them the fastest between the other players. Personally, I've had several NPCs try and flirt with my character, and it makes me so uncomfortable. I don't play this game so I can have imaginary MILFs dote on me. At this point, I'll probably just have my character become a nun so I can shun all the lewd behavior and be exempt from all the 10 out of 10 NPCs. Woo! Ooh, oh boy. Woo! First question, OP. Where did you find this table? And, can you put in a good word for me? Like, if you don't want all these incredibly sexy NPCs getting all up in your business, I'll happily take that bullet for you. I got your back, fam. I'll take one for the team. Okay, in all seriousness, if this game is making you uncomfortable, that is not a good thing. I don't know if this is a table of people you know, or if this is a table you've joined as a relative stranger, but it sounds like no one bothered to check your limits and boundaries before the game started, which these days should be the first thing you do. That is session 0 stuff. Either that, or someone missed off an important tagline on that LFP post. Listen, you shouldn't have to tolerate other players and the DM doing something routinely that makes you uncomfortable. You could try bringing it up with them, and if they're all okay toning down the down and dirty, that's good. But otherwise, you might just be looking to get something different out of this game than the other players, and this might not be the table for you. I know it sucks, but if this is such a huge and frequent occurrence in the game, then what are you really sticking around for? Does whatever happens between these moments really justify how uncomfortable it makes you? Remember the golden rule. No D&D is better than bad D&D, even if it's daddy D&D. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. DM decided to do a TPK to teach new players a lesson. This is mainly just a rant, but advice is always appreciated. So for some context, me and my party are complete noobs when it comes to D&D, and this was our first ever campaign. Our DM has significantly more experience though, so I was super excited to dive into this game. I was sort of hyper-fixated and did a ton of research on how to play the game. Watched videos on how to do proper character builds, and spent hours writing and fleshing out my character's backstory. I even did actual research on how to identify plants and foliage, real and fantasy, for my druid. I really fell in love with the character I made. The issue is, our DM gave us an impossible to survive first encounter. We tried to flee, but we were completely surrounded by an army of Onis and couldn't escape no matter what we did. We weren't even rolling bad, some of us even rolled nat 20s and it still didn't help. It felt like the DM was purposefully making it so we couldn't survive, and we didn't. We got completely team wiped. After the session was over, I asked what was the point in immediately killing all of us off, and he said, I wanted you guys to feel like you're not immortal, that your characters can very easily die. Which is an important lesson, I guess, but I just feel like maybe there was a better way to do it. Our DM now wants us to make completely new characters to begin anew for the second session, but honestly, I got super attached to my character and I'm completely devastated and don't really feel like playing anymore. Maybe that is just me being childish, especially because my other two party members don't seem to care as much since their backstory consisted of a single sentence or two. To clarify, our DM isn't a bad guy. He is our friend and isn't maliciously punishing us or anything. I did ask if I could just reuse my character, but he denied the request because it would cheapen the death. Am I overreacting? Should I just suck it up and make a new character despite my lack of motivation? Or do I give up on my D&D journey? Ugh, oh my god, who hurt this guy? Okay, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I thought these games were supposed to be fun. I mean, who does this? OP, I know you said your DM is a friend and not a bad guy, but you don't have to be a bad guy to be a dick sometimes, and this was a dick move. Yeah, characters can die. That's kind of the point of combat and health points and half the mechanics of the game. He's not blowing any minds or shattering any expectations by pulling some Kingsman bullshit and forcing you to kill a puppy that he told you to raise. Side note, Kingsman does not hold up. Short version, maybe DM's not a bad guy, but this wasn't it, Chief. Don't let this DM or any DM ruin your passion for this game. Just take your character that you love to another table that'll love it just as much. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. That guy being always confidently incorrect. No special warnings, and it's not even that deep. This guy just managed to get under my skin super quickly in a Pathfinder 1st Edition Rise of the Runelords game. I'm going to call him Gary. We'd never met, and the entire group was all online strangers assembled to play the AP underneath a new GM. I think the GM being new is why this guy wasn't kicked sooner. It started almost immediately when I was talking about my build. I'd taken Divine Fighting Technique as a feat so that I could add my Charisma to my Star Knife attacks as a bard who worshipped Desna. Gary immediately hops in to tell me I can't take it as a regular feat at 1, I have to replace my versatile performance for it at level 2. I try to explain to him that this is an optional replacement, it literally says as much on the text line, that anyone can take this feat and that bards just have a secondary way into it, and he just absolutely bulldozes me in conversation to talk over me to explain how basically I'm stupid. Eventually he gets off my back because I show messages from the questions channel in the Pathfinder Discord where everyone else made it clear as day that you can just take DFT as a feat because it's a feat. The equivalent of this would happen basically any time I did anything. By the time I was in this campaign, which was a few years ago now, I'd been playing Pathfinder 1st Edition for 10 fucking years. I was not new, I knew how to play a level 1 bard. He was only doing this to me, and I was the only woman present, so I have to assume that that was the reason. Or maybe he was just mad I knew more about the game than him and wanted to try and neg me at every possible angle. And I don't even mind it when people try to correct me, but the fact that he was both smug and wrong just made him the most annoying person on Earth. The straw that broke the camel's back was after a session when I was talking to another player about my build plan for the character, what I wanted to take at higher levels. And Gary just butts in to say, "Do you even know how to have fun?" And I'm just fucking stun-locked because how do you even respond to that? What's wrong with this guy? So I just leave the call and the campaign afterwards. The GM told me he didn't last long afterwards, but I was kinda out of it at that point, still possibly the most purely irritating person I've ever interacted with in a Pathfinder game. That's good mansplaining. Problem is, these guys live for the debate, even if they're proven wrong. The best way I've ever seen these people handled is to lean into the stupidity they assume of you. Be the ditziest ditz who ever ditzed. Drill them with annoyingly obvious questions. Say the most ridiculous stuff you can think of. Forget how gravity works if you can. If they want to treat you like you're stupid, show them how much worse that would be than to just admit that you probably know what you're talking about. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Called out in the first minute. This is a mild one, but I still think it's a little weird, so here we go. Also, English isn't my first language, so forgive me for weird grammar and typos. I normally DM a Pathfinder 1st Edition game, but because of scheduling we only play once a month max. That's why I decided to look for games near me, and I found a 5e game I could join. It was an ongoing homebrew campaign. All PCs were level 10, which was quite challenging for me because I really don't know anything about 5e, but I managed to roll up a character. The DM provided me with the lore of the world and said you'd get bonuses if you worship the gods. There were 4 gods, and I picked the one who was considered evil on the surface, but if you actually read the lore, you knew that it was the good guy. Enough prep, I entered the game and told everyone out of character what I was playing. Immediately after I met the party in-game, one player asked me what god I'm worshipping. That's weird, first question to ask, but knowing my god was considered evil in this world, I lied and rolled a natural 20, which came out to a 23 or something. They rolled insight and got a non-natural 27. I thought I was safe, but that's when I learned that a natural 20 doesn't matter on a skill check, so the player said they knew who I was worshipping and wanted to fight me. However, the DM threw me a bone and said, said, "You only know he's lying. You don't know what truth he's actually hiding." They were very upset but asked to roll to persuade me to tell the truth. Again, I thought I was safe because that kind of roll isn't a big thing on my usual table, but the DM allowed it. The player rolled a 28 or something like that, and the DM asked me for an opposing roll. I knew that was pointless as even a natural 20 wouldn't get me there, but I rolled anyways and got a 5. Well, that resulted in me saying hello, being recognized as a follower of an evil god, and me telling them all about it within the first interaction. You can imagine that integrating my character into the party went pretty difficultly at that point, but we kind of hand-waved it, I guess, and the other player was satisfied knowing my secret and being able to look down on him. I continued to play, but I was getting a bad vibe from this interaction, and I was proven right in the future. TLDR, I learned the hard way about skill checks in D&D, and another player metagamed to expose my character. Okay, so putting aside the debate about whether a nat 20 should mean an automatic success on skill and ability checks, which in this humble goat's opinion it should, this guy needs to get over his main character syndrome like now. His character doesn't need to know every secret or expose every twist and spoil everyone else's surprises, which is the fun part of having a character in a group roleplay. I was a part of a Gaia online roleplay a long time ago with a secret villain character that everyone was really excited about, but then some dipshit walked up and said, "Excuse me, can you give me directions? Also, you seem evil to me, why is that?" Just ruined the whole vibe. Don't be that guy. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.